Today we're getting juicy, guys. We are gonna talk about the most interesting, fantastic, sexy subject of all, pensions and retirement. Hello there people, welcome to my channel. My name is Patricia Bright. You are over here on The Break. We're giving you the tools to learn, grow and navigate life like a boss and hopefully make money moves in the process. I hope you are doing well. So yes, today we're going to talk about a subject matter that, to be honest, most people don't really think about who are not in the finance world. And I know I'm talking a lot about finances, but I'll keep it real. I'm coming in the world of being like a beauty person, although I did work in the finance industry for many years. But I'll be real with you, I didn't know jack all about pensions. I did not have a pension. When I was given the opportunity to opt out of a pension when I was working, I was like, opt out? I don't want a pension. I want all of my paycheck right here, right now. I ain't got the extra time to share coins to think about something about when I'm old. Like, I didn't want to do that. But I wanted to do a video all about pensions, what they mean, why they are valuable. And I do think if you are young, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, for sure, you really need to think about pensions. And it doesn't have to be the most boring, like, oh my gosh, subject that is out there. And as someone who's self-employed, I know that I didn't know much about pensions or that I needed it and why it was valuable and how it can be used to invest. So I thought I would go ahead and delve into this sexy subject matter. And I'm using these terms to make you feel like, yes, you've really got to watch this. You really got to think about your pensions, your retirement funds right here, right now. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about workplace pension schemes. You've heard about 401ks, Roth 401ks, SIPPs, IRA accounts, all these terms, like they're thrown around everywhere. And you're like, what the hell does any of this actually mean? I'm not gonna lie, I've been like that a lot, but I've been spending a lot of time delving in, trying to understand what it is, how it works, and I have distilled this information in a way that I hope is really easy for everybody to understand. I would have you put in some coins in your old lady bank account, but don't think of it like that. Now, I know most people think by the time I'm 40, I'm gonna be a multi-millionaire or a yacht. I won't need a pension. I'm gonna be rolling in dough. Like, I don't need that. Well, you never know. Who's gonna pay for that walking stick? Now, before we get into this video, I want to do a little bit of a promo. You guys know I've mentioned that I will be launching the most fantastic financial fitness guide ever. Your glutes are looking plump. Your abs are snatched. Maybe they're not. You've been working on those gains in quarantine, but the same cannot be said for your bank balance. I have created the most amazing financial fitness guide. I really wanted to do something that was really helpful and useful to help people learn about their finances, build and create a process, and take action. And I feel like lots of us are willing and ready to invest in our bodies and how we look, but there are also other aspects, especially when it comes to our finances, that are kind of left by the wayside. They're all flabby or really lean in the corner looking shrunken. No, we want to be the protein shake and the dumbbells to your finances. So yes, we are starting a challenge. You are able to sign up down below to our mailing list and you'll be the first to hear about what is going on. And the first 1,000 will be getting something very special. So first things first, what is a pension or what is a retirement account? And I'm going to try and address the US version and the UK version because I know that lots of people from the US also follow this channel as well. And so yeah, my brain has had to work doubly hard. So give me a thumbs up for trying to do that research. And I do my research myself. I do not have a research team or anything like that. So yeah, wow, my eyes hurt from reading. So yeah, what is a pension? In simple terms, it's basically a pot of money, a pot of income that is generated during your working years that you can use as almost like a salary or a pot of money you have access to when you are retired. It's not just a pot of money that sits there, it's money that hopefully should grow over time. So that could be via the power of compound interest. So interest generates even more interest and it has a compounding effect, but also that pot of money can grow because it is also allowed to invest. You can have pensions that invest in the stock market like any other other form of investment. The thing about a pension is that you cannot actually access it, or you're not really meant to access it until you've reached the age of retirement. I believe that the age is 60 in the UK, or like 55. It is different for men and women, and I don't know what that age is in the US, but we'll put the retirement ages on the screen right here. In the UK, you're not actually able to access these retirement accounts. You're not allowed to access these pensions accounts, but in the US, you are allowed to access your pension account, and it does vary depending on the one that you have, but you will incur either some tax liability or a penalty of around 10% if you do take money out of your pension accounts before you hit that retirement age. Now, a lot of countries do have social security or a state pension. So the state pension in the UK is currently £175 and some change per week, which is about £9,000 per year. And if you think about that, it's not that much money, especially if you still have a mortgage, which I really hope that when you're in retirement, you don't still have a mortgage, but there are plenty of people who actually do. And it does vary in different countries. Interesting fact, Denmark has one of the best state pension options out there, and supposedly their old people are living their best life. But in reality, why I think it's really important to think about your pension and not rely on just the state pension is because you do not know what's going to happen in 30 years from now. What happens if governments like scrap state pensions? What if they reduce the amount? What if the cost of living is far more expensive? And I think everybody who's thinking about investing or building a business or growing their wealth, they're thinking about the long run. They're thinking not only about how can I not work today, but they're like, well, how do I get to like live my best life later on? And you've definitely got to think about living your best life when you're no longer working. In reality, life is very long. People live, up to 90 years old, 100 years old, but of the time you're alive, you only have a fixed window where you're actually able to work. And so in those 30 years or 40 years that you work, there might be another 30 or 40 years where you're not able to work. How is that lifestyle going to be funded? You might not be the rich and famous superstar that you think you might be. You might not have those yachts and that house and all those stuff in place. And so a pension is a great way to basically hedge just in case you don't. So what is the point and what is the benefit of a pension? I think for me, especially as a business owner, and I'm going to go into this in detail a bit later, is the way that I can use it to reduce my tax liability today. Not that you don't pay tax in the future. You have the opportunity for tax advantage or tax deferral, as it's made reference to in the US. And it does depend on what kind of retirement or pension account that you choose. But in general, and particularly in the UK, you receive tax benefits and tax savings today, which is virtually like having free money to put into investments. So let's assume the government are already taking money out of your paycheck today anyway. But imagine that you're still receiving your paycheck, and what they would have taken out in tax, they're actually putting into your retirement. It's actually like free money if you think about it, because it hasn't gone to the government, it's gone to you, and it can be used to invest and to grow in the long run via compound interest. Another benefit is, of course, not only are you saving for your future, but you can invest via your pension. If you are thinking about investing, or you want to be an investor, all of that kind of jazz that everybody's interested in doing it, a pension is the cheapest way to, in the long run, actually invest, because you're getting free money, especially if we look at when employers are able to match what you put into your pensions. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. If you call yourself an investor, the first place to start is via a pension or a retirement account. Like it's literally a no-brainer. Okay, so I've quickly wanted to go ahead and talk about the different types of pension/retirement accounts that are out there. And pension and retirement accounts are the exact same thing, to be honest with you, but I know that language can be different depending on where you are. But basically, these are the accounts you put money into now while you're working, so that when you're old or when you retire, you have money. I'm going to try and break these down into 3 different categories. Category 1 is like the state retirements or the state pension opportunities. I've already talked about that. So category number 2 are occupational based retirement accounts or pension options. So in the UK, we have the workplace pension scheme, and in the US, you have the 401k opportunities or the Roth 401k. And these are pensions that are arranged by your employers. So you can have have a pension at every single employer that you work at. And actually in the UK, these are mandatory. Now I'm an employer as well. We have to actually make a contribution into every single one of our employees' pension schemes. And I believe that the governments make us make a minimum contribution of 3%. So if you don't know that already, right now, if you're employed and you're over the age of 22, when you receive your paycheck, a portion of this is going in towards your pension. And you could actually chase, and if you've moved jobs, a lot of times you could actually find your existing pensions, because they're basically like accounts, and sometimes they're in lots of different accounts if you've moved into lots of different jobs, and a lot of people don't know where their pensions are. There's even a pot of money, I believe that's in the millions, of unclaimed pensions right about now. And there are services such as a pension tracing scheme, which will allow you to find all your pensions and to see if you actually have them. So that's an exercise you can conduct. Sorry, I digress. But yes, occupational based pensions are organized by your employers. So if you work, they have set one up for you, and you can reach out to HR and you can find out about what your pension contributions are. You might even see this information on your pay slips as well. These exist again as a 401k, and the amount that goes into your workplace pension is dependent on what your salary is. So it's a percentage of your salary. I believe that this is mandatory at 3% in the UK, and I think in the US as well they do the same 3% contribution. But you can also opt to pay more into that pension pot as well. Now, what is really valuable in these workplace pensions is the fact that there is employer matching. This is great. Basically, whatever you're putting into your pension pot, your employer can put the exact same amount. Again, I talk about free money. This is a great way to get free money. They're giving you money that they're not going to put on top of your salary. They're not going to give you that extra money now, but actually they're giving you that extra money in the future. Who doesn't like free money? If you had the opportunity to do it via pension, why not take it? Now, your contributions to your pension are taken out pre-tax, and this is where you're making that extra money as well. However, this does not apply to a Roth 401k. So if you are taking out a Roth 401k, you receive your salary and you are paying the tax now, and then you can put the amount into a pension account. However, when you take the money out at retirement, you do not have to pay the tax then. There are definitely pros and cons between having a Roth 401k or a traditional 401k, and that's up to you to decide. There are some deciding factors which I can talk about a little bit later on if you really want to know. So the next form of pension accounts are the ones that you set up yourself. So this is not done by an employer or your company. This is one that you can do if you want to make additional pension contributions, or if you are self-employed, or if you're a business owner. And this is in the form of, a SIP. There's also the IRAs and the Roth IRAs as well. And also you have the solo 401k, and there are a few different other options that are there. But again, these are ones that you set up yourself, and they aren't created by an external company or your employer. So you can set up your own pension schemes and you can make your own contributions to them. If you want to max out some of the allowances, each of the different type of pension accounts have different allowances. In the UK, you can make contributions to up to £20,000 a year without having to pay tax on that amount. I believe that for certain IRA accounts it's 19,000. For Roth IRA, I believe it's 6,000. So there are different thresholds of how much you can contribute without triggering a tax liability. With a personal account, you can choose to just put it in a bank account, specifically a pension saving bank account, or you can also put it into investments accounts. Via a SIP, I know you can definitely invest, which you can buy and trade shares, and you can make a profit on it as well. You can do everything that you can do with a normal brokerage account, you can do within a pension-based account, but there are a few limitations on certain things. But the majority of the time, you're investing in the same way that you might invest via another stocks and shares account as well. Now, when it comes to actually setting up a pension, I think the value lies in the earlier you start. I've talked about compound interest before, but if you look at the calculations and if you look at the numbers, and the value of compound interest is that if you start saving at the age of 20, if you start putting a little bit down all the time from a very young age, and then by the time that money has made money and made more money and made more interest and made more money, in 40 years from now it has an exponential ability to grow even larger. And a lot of the time you might be able to put money aside today that you won't even feel like it's not painful right now to put £10 a month down or put £10 into your pension, but in the long run that amount can grow significantly larger and be far more useful than you would have used it to waste on snacks today. There are a lot of opportunities out there to use a pension calculator to give you an idea of what you may need to live on when you retire. I think most people don't have a realistic number of how much they need when they're old to live on a daily basis, and so there's certain calculations where you're told to like times it by 25 and then add this factor to it, whatever. I'll put links down below to some of the good pension calculators that are out there, but it's really a good idea to get an idea of what your cost of living could be for that good life when you are older. So as I mentioned, you have the employee-based schemes. So this is the workplace pension scheme, as well as the 401k. And then you also have the Roth 401k. The difference between the 401k and the Roth 401k is that your contributions in the 401k are done pre-tax, and your contributions in your Roth 401k are done post-tax. So you are taxed and then the money goes into your pension account. But when you retire, you will not have to pay tax on the money that you take out of your pension account in the long run. And in the US, there is the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, there's also the solo 401k, and a few other ones as well, based on what kind of business or company you run. So I wanted to give an example why, as a freelancer or as a business owner or as an individual, that a pension account is valuable to me, and I'm going to just use my own personal example. It's a great way for reducing the tax that you're due to pay right about now. It's almost like getting free money. It's definitely legal, and the government are encouraging people, especially if you're self-employed, to make allowances for the future, and so they allow this kind of activity to go on. So let's assume that my company has made £100,000 in profit, and I'm due to pay tax of 20%, and so that means I need to give the taxman 20%. Bye, see you later, it's never coming back again. However, actually, if I make my pension contribution, that means money that is for me in the future. I'm allowed to put £20,000 maximum into my pension pot, and so that means that I've reduced my profit, and so my profit is now only £80,000, even though £20,000 has basically gone into me for the future. It's gone into my pension for the future. I only have to pay tax on £80,000, and so instead of giving the taxman £20,000 like I would have had to do if I didn't make my pension contribution, I only have to pay the taxman £16,000. In a roundabout way, I've actually made £4,000 profit for myself for the future. Now, you do end up having to pay tax on your pension pot when you take it out, but there are different thresholds in the future, and we'll talk about that later. But inevitably, right here, right now, I've made this £4,000 saving that I'm able to invest for the future, rather than giving that to the taxman. Also, another thing in the UK, you can, if you haven't been putting money into your pension, or you haven't put the full amount into your pension, you can actually make a claim for multiple years back, up to 3 years. So imagine if I hadn't made a contribution for 3 years, my profit was £100,000 in my company. For 3 years, I could have put £20,000 into my pension pot. I can take that out right here today, and that means I can reduce my £100,000 profit to £40,000 profit. That's £60,000 can go into a pension pot, and then I only have to pay tax on the £40,000. Now, you can't do this every year, clearly, but this is if you're trying to recuperate lost pensions, and that means that you only have to pay £8,000 in tax. Does that make sense? I hope that numerically makes sense. And so instead of paying £20,000 in tax, I can completely reduce it down to £4,000 in tax in this scenario, or I can reduce it to £80,000 in tax with a 1 year scenario. So this is where you get a benefit. Now, not only that, a pension, though you can't get the money now, you can use it to generate more money. Pensions can make a profit, but the profit that is made within a pension has to stay within the pension until retirement. So for instance, I can buy a commercial property via a pension. So imagine if you have a pension pot of, this is great, but if you have £150,000, if you want to buy a building or an office within your pension, you can do that. And I tell this more to people who have got like larger pension pots or are running bigger businesses. And this is what I tell a lot of my influencer friends to think about doing, because a lot of them don't know about this side of things. I've learned so much from my accountant. Shout out to you, Sam. But yeah, via your pension pot, you can then buy an office, or you can buy a warehouse, or you can buy a building, and you can then rent that building to yourself. You still have to pay rent, but the rent goes within the profits of the pension. So again, we all talk about money that makes money. We talk about investing. It's a great way to invest. If you're ever thinking about investing in property, you can do that. Also, within a pension, you can also get a mortgage. I really hope this isn't too complicated, and I hope my numbers on screen can help to make a bit more sense of it. But you can also get a mortgage within a pension. I believe in the UK this is up to 50%. So if you have £150,000 inside a pension, you can get a mortgage of up to £150,000. That is then £300,000 that can be used to buy a commercial property as well. You cannot buy investment properties or residential properties, but you can buy warehouses, offices, restaurants, and that kind of thing. You can roll up all your pensions, you can move them around into different pension accounts, and you can work out what works best for you. So a pension is very flexible, other than you cannot get the money until you retire. Or as in the cases of the UK, you can incur penalty charges and then be due to pay some form of tax today as well. So I wanted to quickly go into the risks, because there's always risk with everything, although pensions are probably the lowest risk investment opportunities that are out there, especially because you are investing in the long run, but there is some risk. So if you need the money right here, right now to do something, you cannot access that money. You can't use that money if you are, you are on hard times, or something extreme has happened and you don't have your savings, then you can't get to that money. Or you can get to the money, but you are going to incur some extreme penalties that probably won't make it worthwhile. Again, you cannot access this money until you reach the age of retirement. Another issue is that your checks today are lower. What you receive in if this is from an employee perspective, your paychecks are going to be lower because a portion of your money is being saved for the future. But I think for some people it's probably a good thing. Imagine if you had all the money in your paycheck now and you're left to be responsible to save for your pension. You may be less likely to do that. But again, if you need all the money right now, then the idea of thinking about 60 years from now or 50 years from now isn't great if you need to put food on the table right here, right now. Another risk is you do not know what the tax rates are going to be in the future. And this particularly applies to like your 401ks or your IRA accounts. Although you are deferring the tax till later, what happens if tax is at 500 million%? That's not a real number. But what if the tax rates are far, far higher? However, a lot of people choose to only withdraw a certain amount of their pension to not incur these tax rates. So in the UK, there's a threshold, I believe, of 25%. You can take 25% out of your pension pot without incurring a tax liability, but on the other 75% you will be required to pay tax. So by the way, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a girl who's learning how to manage my money more, and I actually am just someone who just wants to encourage young people, women, people from diverse backgrounds to definitely take control of their money. But I would say a little bit of my considerations when it comes to a pension account is do it, especially when it comes to your employer-based pensions. Just do it. Like that 3%, you're not really going to use it on something valuable today unless you're really in like a dire situation. But the fact that you can then get your employer to match, you should definitely ask your employer about the matching scheme. Definitely do it. It's worthwhile. You're making a great saving, and it's a great opportunity to learn to start investing. Now, when it comes to setting up your own pension accounts, so that's your SIPs or your IRAs, I think that you should exercise caution if you're not a keen investor. If you do not know how to buy stocks and shares and you haven't done the research, you do need to actively manage this so you don't make big losses, but you're less likely to make losses or extreme losses because you're investing over the long run. This is not your pension account isn't where you should be doing manic trading or forex trading or buying Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin if you want to, but leave it to the pros. And also another thing you need to consider, I would say, is the fees that you are going to incur via the brokerage or the SIP accounts that you set up. You can end up losing a lot of money, and this is via investing as well, but also within a pension, by literally just paying too much for mutual funds and the fees. And actually, I had my pension invested via a financial advisor who I paid a ton of money to, and I would not do, personally, now that I'm more equipped, I wouldn't do it again. And also they invested via a mutual fund who again also take fees, and my pension pot has gone down significantly. Now that I know better, I'm obviously going to do better, and I set up individual SIP accounts, and I've now moved into investing myself via my own SIP accounts. But yeah, a pension is a great place to start. So guys, that is it. I think that's everything you should need to know when it comes to pensions. I can get into detail about what's better, what's worse. Actually, no, I can't, because I'm not really a financial expert. I can give you my opinion on the different types of pension accounts out there if that's something that you want to see. Now, one thing I will say, that when you think about pensions, when you think about finances, it can all feel very overwhelming, which is why I have created this financial fitness program. I really want to take the pain out of it. I really want to get a system in place, and this is what you guys are going to see if you are joining our financial fitness challenge. We still don't have a hashtag for it, but suggestions are welcome down below. But we are going to walk you through from the budget to your savings, from dealing with debt to thinking and picking your pension account, to then also looking at your investing and also making more money. This is like an introduction approach to anyone who's thinking about really taking control of their finances. I cannot wait for you guys to see this. I always want to bring as much value as possible, and yeah, this is about to be like the way. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some information. Press the thumbs up if you like videos like this, but in the meantime, I will catch you all later. Bye.